Hey, everybody. I'm William Poet, and I am here live and in the flesh with Mike Schmitt.
What? We can't be in the same room together? How's that
In the
work?
same room together, folks.
That's super fun. Like we've been talking about doing this, and we kind of anticipate over over the course of the series, there are going to be times when we get a chance to do things here or other places, and maybe on the ranch. We'll just kind of take it as we go.
And if you're new to the show, if you're new to the Posse, our goal is we're spending thousands of hours over the last few years working with, playing with, breaking all the different AI tools. And on this program, AI for Knuckle-Draggers, real tools for real people doing real work. That's our commitment and motto. In today's show, we're going to have a great time. We're going to be talking about a term you might have heard. If you haven't heard it now, you will. It's what does it mean to be an AI native individual? What does it mean to be an AI native organization?
And frankly, we've been dealing with this for a couple of years, and I'm not even sure I'm clear. So, would you mind going into what an AI native individual is?
You know, and again, Mike and I are living this, and things are moving so fast. I don't think we've had a chance to talk in the last 2 days, and we're very committed to helping organizations and individuals leverage these powerful tools, because the belief of everyone in the field is, unfortunately, there's a bifurcation happening. And by probably the end of 2026, there's going to be two types of people. They're going to be AI native individuals. They're going to be AI native organizations who have a massive competitive edge over those who don't. And so an AI native, simply put, is someone who uses, think of AI as, the military is inventing these sort of exoskeletons that lets a soldier, carry 500 pounds and lets a soldier run for 50 miles. And so it doesn't make the soldier go away. It makes the soldier exponentially more powerful. And we'll start with AI native individuals, and then we'll segue into AI native enterprises. But the idea is, how frequently and how effectively are you using AI every day in your life? That's what an AI native is.
And that totally makes sense, because we've gotten to the point where in this last year we've gone from using it like a lot of people do, AI as a replacement for Google or whatever our Bing, whatever our search engine was, to now where it's actually developing tools for us. Today I had a meeting with a couple that were working through some areas on how they can interact and what is their purpose and their mission, and third generation. And I built an app for them before the meeting, kind of like what you did for our friend in Santa Barbara. And literally, they're going on vacation. They're going to take this app, and I just vibe coded it, and it came up with husband does this part of the survey, wife does this part of the survey. It creates 6 questions, and they're able to have a conversation about these things, about what do they want to do with their child, with their businesses, with the way they interact within their community, and take leadership within their family.
That's a perfect use case. An example, I used to send brochures about offerings that we had. Then we would send PDFs. I don't send anything unless it's a live HTML landing page that's interactive. And to Mike's point, literally you can be driving to a meeting, and whether you need a client dossier, you might be a parent. Here's a fun one. My kid's learning French, and they're 9 years old, and create a really fun, engaging French quiz. And literally, while you're sitting in line in the parking lot to pick your kid up from school, it will build that for you. And so that's, to be AI native. And we've talked about this in previous shows. Right now today, they're all free. So download ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Grok. Those are kind of the big 4. And they have different personalities. They have different training styles. They're trained on different datas. And just play with them. My girlfriend teases me. She's a great cook. Last night, I was reverse searing steaks. And so I took pictures of the fillets because they were different sizes, and I asked my AI cooking assistant, hey, exactly what temperature do I need to pull the little guy out of before, and how much sooner, and she's laughing at me because I'm talking, and to be completely honest, I wanted rare. a little more on the medium end, but I don't think it was my AI assistant's fault. I think I overseered it. But the idea is an AI native asks themselves, where can't I use this tool? Whereas I think an AI, either curious or AI kind of afraid person, ignores it or is help me write an email or correct my text for me.
Yeah, and I think what we're doing now is we're using artificial intelligence in our businesses to research on who it is we're talking to. Each of us have given our agents the opportunity to look at our calendar. I've not given it the ability to write emails for me or post anything without my approval on the front side. But it can look at my calendar. It can tell that I'm having a meeting with William, let's say today, and if this is the first time William and I were meeting, it could run a dossier, and which is literally like an elevated CV with a picture of William, anything that's publicly available from a business perspective, and will give me some talking points about where Williams and my practices might be synergistic. So we can kind of have a few targets to say, hey, can we get to these 3 items in the meeting? And these might be some areas to stay away from. These are areas of potential conflict. Maybe don't talk about those things on this meeting because it's our first meeting.
We've got a new team member who we're building an agent team for. We call it T9. He's on multiple boards, and these are high-level boards, managing over, one of them is 1.4 billion a year in assets. And for each board, he can now go in, and he has a dedicated agent that is researching exactly what's happening, what's trending within this specific industry, what should the board be looking for, what information, there might be a new board member, and brings them up to speed on that. And so it's really, whatever environment you're going into, you're being armed with the best real-time data, the best tools. Before this show, here's a great example. This is episode number 5, so super proud of you guys for being with us and Schmitt being here.
Thank you for joining the Posse.
And my girlfriend for lending us her lovely living room to shoot this in. But I had my AI agent. I said, go into YouTube, look at our channel, review our previous 4 episodes. Tell me what's working, what is it? We love a shout out to the Moonshots podcast, the All In podcast. And so I got a report back on what I'm doing well, what Schmitty's doing well, how we could tighten things up. And so that's what I mean by being AI native. It's how can I elevate this tool, this process, this salad, my workouts, I don't care what it is.
I did a presentation for my Rotary Club. I've been a member of Rotary for about 23 years. We did a presentation last week to the club to talk about how we as Rotarians might be able to use artificial intelligence to better serve our community. So I think from my perspective, we should be using the tool to elevate our humanity, elevate our ability to contribute back into our communities and our businesses, our families, or in our communities, and have that kind of comfort so that we're more masters of it than, heaven forbid, it become masters of us.
Well, and that conversation I had, and I'm having these all the time, and I love having these conversations, is you're in one of 2 positions right now because AI is driving everything. AI drives social media, AI drives Amazon, AI drives the news, AI drives your news
Customer
feed.
service at AT&T when I talked to them today.
So you are either a passenger in the AI car, not an AI native, or you are driving the car. And that's really what we want you guys to take away. This is about agency. So I'm not turning my life over to AI. It's the opposite of that. If you don't become an AI native, and this is a prediction, and it might sound a little harsh, the Pope, I'm gonna borrow the Pope's language. He said that we need to be careful and disarm AI. Those are actually words he used very mindfully, and what he meant was, if we are not mindful in the use of these tools, the tools will use us. And Mike and I are both, a humanist. Like, I'm here to make sure that I can be the best boyfriend, father, partner, community member, and this. I don't believe companies need to get rid of lots of their employees. You need to build AI native team members. You need to empower people so that you can exponentially, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, you can compete. There are a lot of companies right now who are going for a 20% headcount. And that's a business model. They believe that they can whack 80% of their team and possibly double output. We have a very different philosophy, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. What are some of the, you're talking to people every day, you're talking to people on horseback rides. I know you just did a big thing for 7 days out in the San Ynez Valley a while back. What's the pulse? Where do you feel like people are in this AI world, in this AI dance?
Well, most people are confused by it, a little bit worried, right? When you look at the media, television, print, what have you, it's not great news. AI, if you look at the Gallup polls or CNN or Wall Street Journal on an approval or a popularity, it's less popular than Congress is today. That's saying a lot.
That's hard.
Right? Congress is at like 23% approval rating and AI is at like 20%. And so people are, a lot of the guys that I was talking to, because they're relatively well off and okay in their lives, they're like, AI is a thing for tomorrow. It's not a thing for today. And I think what William and I are talking about is it's a thing for today. It's a thing to, even if you start small, even if you start with the free version of OpenAI or Anthropic's Claude, it's a thing to just become conversant in it. And over time, you may choose to use it a little more deeply. William and I have been using it for a couple of years. So for us to go deeper with it, when OpenClaw came out and build our own agents and start to build apps and do something, we were already kind of ready for it because we'd been using it at least on a small level, well, large level for what it offered, but small compared to what it is today. And it's crazy the amount of improvement and enhanced capabilities that are happening pretty much every 2 to 3 weeks. It's just jumping on it over itself.
The speed. Peter Diamandis, who's head of the Moonshots group, said, the problem with an exponential is that nothing seems to be changing, nothing seems to be changing, nothing seems to be changing, and then everything changes. And as you're talking, Mike, I was thinking back in the day when people had car phones, and these were like the convertible Mercedes, and they, big antenna out the back, and wow, that's crazy. Well, who here doesn't have a cell phone? And this is what's going to happen with AI. And there's a jagged edge in technology. We talk about this. In Dubai right now today, there's an electric Uber taxi. So you get on the top of your hotel, you go boop boop boop. A drone lands, takes you to the airport. 2028 in Los Angeles at the Olympics, we will have flying drone taxis. If you live in Austin and you're watching the show, you can get a driverless Tesla to come pick you up. So Mike and I, we have fleets of agents that are, and we'll talk a little bit more about what an agent actually is, the difference between an agent and an LLM. So I've got teams of amazingly brilliant digital employees working for me all the time, and most people, I think it's less than 10% of the U.S. population has a $20 subscription.
I think it's less than 5%.
So understand the gap and understand the disparity. And I honestly.
But let's stop there for a second. Like, what's the difference between a free, like why should I pay $20 a month?
That's a great question. And we talked a little bit about it in last week's episode. The companies, which are in business to drive revenue, if you have the free tool, they're holding back intelligence. My friend's got a daughter who's attending a great academic program back east, and she was using the free version of ChatGPT, and she's like, I just didn't like, it wasn't really serving me. She was in kind of a technical position, and it wasn't giving her the answers that she needed. Well, upgrade. Just with that $20 a month subscription, you get a much better brain. So, the question is,
and by much better, I think it's not an exaggeration to say you're getting at least 500% better compute and ability out of that agent.
It's the difference between you got a high school kid who's coming to your office and, hey, let me help out. And, if they write an email for you, you're going to have to rewrite the email 5 times. If they file something for you, you're not going to be able to find it in the filing cabinet, versus having, a Wharton MBA or, an engineer from MIT working for you. So that $20 a month, and, we talked about it. I'm on the $200 a month OpenAI plan, the $100 a month Anthropic plan, and people might be saying, "Well, that's a lot of money." Is it for 25 employees that are working, doing research on YouTube, doing research on how to deploy AI within organizations, giving me a morning brief that I wake up to, my workouts. So, I wear an Oura Ring, which is charging right now. It rates my sleep, my scores, my HRV, my readiness, and it builds I'm delivered every morning a customized workout for my age, my goals, any issues I have. So not only am I getting access to the best, there's cognitive offloading. And this is a term you're going to hear a lot about. When I, as a leader,
let's go back to the cost though, really quickly. I as a small practice, family business consultant, there's been a few times that I've toyed with virtual assistants coming out of the Philippines or coming out of Costa Rica, and we had great, nice people who came through and helped us. But they cost me more than $300 a month, or about $300 a month, to go get 15 hours a week or what have you. And what we've built in the agent, my agent I call Baxter, and Baxter is superior to anything that I've had brought in from the virtual assistant, and learns. Right, the first couple of months were a little clunky, but now I'm not having major issues. I'm not having to rewrite things. Now, I'm still not letting them publish. I'm still not letting them send emails out or do any of that. But the product that I'm getting is of a very high quality. And maybe if I have to do iterations when I do a slide deck or I do a presentation, maybe I'm doing 2 or 3, but they are so much better than what they were 2 months ago. And it seems like every month they're getting better. The graphics are getting better, the video, the editing, the copywriting is everything's getting better on it.
So one of the things that as for the Knuckle-Dragger Posse, we really want you to be AI agnostic. And what that means is there's a horse race happening where last month it was Anthropic, this month it's OpenAI. Pretty soon I think you're going to see Google shoot to the forefront. So it's what we build. An AI agent is it's a harness that has interchangeable minds, and it's actually pretty wild. When you switch out, so Tat is my chief of staff. When you switch out brains, you get slightly different responses. There's a slightly different feel to how it works. But what we've done, and I touched on this in our last episode, I've created a second digital brain. Lives on my hard drive. It knows everything about me, probably more about me than I know about me. It knows everything about my business. It has complete context of who I am, what I do, what matters to me, my vision, my mission, my values. So think about, Mike talked about Baxter being like a new employee, which is, there's a trust quotient that has to be developed. But it's nice having a new employee who you say, hey, what's my massive transformative purpose? Wham. Tell me about my kids. Wham. Any health issues that I have. All of that detail is available.
And I'm not so trusting yet, so it doesn't know everything about my business, and it doesn't know everything about my family. It has some perspective. I've given it some perspective about moral and ethics and guardrails and kind of a lane to stay in. I'm still somewhat cautious because I don't know where it's going yet. I mean, I do know it's going. It's going off of my hard drive into the cloud and back again. I deal with fairly sensitive subjects for families and individuals, and so I have it completely on a separate box, and I only give it what I'm comfortable giving it, and I keep everything else at an air gap distance away. But it's still, like, I treat it like a new employee, because if I had a 4-month employee, I probably wouldn't give them full access to my financials and my banking and everything else like that. And if I do give them financial statements or set of financial statements for a business, then I anonymize it to make certain that when it gets loaded up into the whichever LLM we're using to go through and kind of run the analysis, that LLM can't scrape it and use that data against my customer at some point in the future. I don't know that they would or not, but I still don't quite have the full trust on it.
Well, and that's a really good point. When we build an agent, a T9 unit for an organization, we build them in a sandbox. So, and if you're familiar in this, if you know what OpenClaw is, I think now there are 30,000 skills that are available for OpenClaw. But these are open source skills, and about 10% of these have malware. And so when we build an agent team for someone, all of the skills that we build are built by us. They're tested by us. They're put into a sandbox environment. So we're very mindful about risks, and there will always be risks. I mean, I forget if it was TRW or if it was American Express. Somebody hacked into one of their systems and got, I don't know, 300,000 Social Security. So like,
Experience.
it's experience. There is risk, and Mike is in a position where he's dealing with a lot of individual sensitive data. So the thing is, and you have to understand this, you can give your agent team whatever information you want it to have, whatever access. So the first thing you did is you gave it your book. So he can go into he can say, hey, I need a newsletter on chapter 4 of my book. Wham! You can't do that with a new employee.
No, and I don't just publish what it gave me. I take it and it's a template, and then I massage it. But boy, it makes things so much faster for me that I can go through and get more product out faster, make it relevant. I can get feedback. I can ask it to go through and take a look at my last newsletter. How many people touched it? Is it worth doing more on that or less of that? And it can give me all these analytics to try to make certain that we're actually doing things that people care about, and that when I do work for my families, I'm actually staying in the lane of what they care about, because that's the goal, right? We want to be better for our customers.
Well, and to your point, as well trained as my team is, I never take their first, whatever they send me at first. Never take, I push on it. I want you to review this as an expert. My typical go-to is David Ogilvy was an expert in copy and marketing. Russell Brunson is great about sales strategies. I'll have a world-class educator go through it, and then I'll have an Apple UI designer. And I'll say, go through this, and I want a scale of 1 to 10, world-class, not world-class. So I'll have 4 different brains analyze, I'll get a report, and then I'll say, okay, optimize for this. Then I'll take that product and I'll take it over to the next smartest brain, and I'll go to Opus 4.8, and I'll say, my intern did this for me. I'm not really that happy with it. Now, I'll be honest, what I've gotten is 10 times better than I've ever seen before, but I play this game where they're battling each other for better outputs. And so, I remember as a kid taking an English writing course. My teacher said, you never turn in the first draft. At least 3 iterations. So I would say when you are working with AI agents and AI tools, like 3 iterations, push on it, challenge it, make it better, force the team to elevate. And now, my agents know when am I going to 10x it, 10x this output.
And I think the other thing you asked, what else did we talk about when we were in Horseback last month? A lot of guys were concerned that it just invents facts and it just tells you what you want to hear. And I think what we were using 2 years ago absolutely did that. I think it still has a tendency to do that a little bit. But that is where our critical thinking, our ability to go through and use our brain and our humanity to go through and push back on it and ask it, just like I had a new employee, well, give me the proof, give me the bibliography, give me the data sources for what it is you just produced for me, and let's double check it. And then sometimes I'll take that, well, almost every time, I'll take that bibliography or that source citation, and I'll dump it into another LLM to say, hey, are these real stats? Are these real sources? Does it say what I think it says? And get a perspective, because I think we all need to be double checking, and all these tools will get to be a little bit easier and better, and they'll do some self-checking, and we'll be able to automate some of this. But today we're doing a little bit on the manual side. The thing is, the AI tools you use today is the dumbest they're going to be in the rest of your life, right? They keep improving every single day, and I'm one who's rooting for humanity. Let's make certain we use these tools to do the best we can for our families and our companies and our communities. And how do we go through and elevate our game? Because our competitors are going to be doing that. So we should probably be in that ballpark and thinking about how do we improve.
And so to Mike's point, as dumb as they will ever be, Opus 4.8 just scored a 58% on humanity's last exam. And I touched on this in our previous episode, but it's worth reviewing. There are 10 disciplines, physics, mathematics, engineering, humanities, and anything you could learn in school, broken into 100 subdivision subjects. The 2,500 questions require a doctoral level to answer properly. So this, Einstein, it's projected because he was a genius in mathematics and physics. On humanity's last exam, he would have gotten about a 22, right? Opus 4.8 scored a 50.8. So they believe the IQ right now is somewhere between 135 and 150, which is genius level, and it is an expert in these verticals. So yes, we have to test it. The hallucination rates are coming down dramatically. Every time they're uploaded, the hallucinations come down. But always, test and verify. But don't you want somebody that smart, that knows you, that has context for you on your team? And so, to be an AI native, imagine every aspect of your life optimized by AI. Your physical training, your nutrition, your shopping list. And again, depending on how comfortable you get, here's the state of the industry. You can say, my goal is to gain 10 pounds of muscle over 6 months and lose 10 pounds of body fat. I'm 64 years old. This is my athletic background. I need you to create a diet for me. These are the foods that I love. I need you to create a shopping list for me. And then I need you to track what's in my refrigerator and order from whatever delivery service. An agent will do all of that for you right now. That technology exists right now.
I think the other thing about AI nativeness is that, are we using AI for defense? Because, there are going to be people who use AI for good in this world and people who use AI for evil things, scams, voice impersonations, financial issues. So, by us becoming aware of what's going on, we should have a better sense in our hearing, in our visualization, and our senses as to whether we're being scammed, or our children are being scammed, or our parents are being scammed, because we need to have some perspective, because there's going to be, the tools are so strong that we need to have our spidey senses up and out and use it for good, but be aware that not everybody that's out there is always using it for good.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you've heard this before, the best defense is a good offense. And that's really, the more adept, the more well-versed you are in using these tools, you are going to understand threats. You are going to understand. And I don't take, one of the real core skill sets that leaders need to develop, everyone, is reality context. Is this real? Is the news real? Is the video real? Is this phone call real? Because we have reached levels where you honestly, unless you're paying attention, you won't know the difference. And so the more, don't fall for anything, understand the power of these tools, have fun. The other thing as we kind of wrap up this episode, guys, I'm like a little kid. I remember maybe 2 years ago when Midjourney was first creating images. I was talking to Mike and I said, I feel like a baboon holding a lighter, and I'm just walking around flicking a lighter going, oh my God. Well, that feeling is exponentially greater today because I see and I'm using and I'm being impacted by the power of these tools. And we're here in this show to help bring you along. You should be a member of the Posse. I pray you've already subscribed. You're following us on YouTube. We're on Spotify. And when you join the Posse, you get in our newsletters, and we're going to be sending out some amazing tools for you guys. And our goal is to have fun and do good and serve you and ultimately serve humanity.
Yeah, elevate humanity. I think that's the bigger thing. And I think the more people are comfortable that this is a tool that's going to help them become, you give them time to be more creative, more artistic, a better parent, a better business leader. That's elevating humanity. And that's our goal, is to make certain you guys kind of feel like you're empowered to do that you have agency over the process, and the process doesn't have agency over you.
Well, folks, that's a wrap. We will see you back next week for episode 6. I'm having the time of my life doing this. Schmitt, this is good.
Thanks.
All right. See you
Appreciate
guys.
you guys.
Bye-bye.